And of course, it's froze.
It's always anything that can go wrong always will, no matter what.
See, now you're live. It finally kicked over to you, man. Do the intro. Do the intro. We're having all sorts of problems here, but let's see. No, you might as well just talk now, man. You're live. Go ahead.
All right, all right. My name, happy to be here. My name is Remy Guercio. I'm a product marketing manager here at Cloudflare. And for those of you who don't know or maybe aren't familiar, Cloudflare, we do internet performance and security for websites, applications, e-commerce stores. We can protect and accelerate pretty much anything out there. And I think that today we're going to talk a little bit about how we can help with a Magento store and just kind of e-commerce in general and how we can help with that. So it's
you did a great job,
yeah.
man. I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize to the viewers. This live stream's going to hell. It's just every week we have some sort of technical challenges. I'm trying to work some things out. I don't know why that intro's not kicking to me. For some reason or another, when I run the intro, not only does it not kick to me, it disables my controller, so I can't manually switch it. So we lose all control after the intro, and it's hard to test without actually going live. So I'm going to apologize for the technical glitches at the start. This is like the second or third week in a row we've had some problems with that. But Remy, you did a fantastic job holding it down for me there while I tried to go over and debug that problem.
There we go. There we go. Hopefully I got it pretty much on the money.
I think so. But what I wanted to talk about today was e-commerce performance, and by performance, speed on the site, time to first byte, time to first interactive paint, time to fully interactive paint, getting that site to your user as fast as you possibly can, because we all know that seconds equal conversions, and you want to make sure you get that site out there as quick as possible, and Cloudflare is a company that definitely helps you do that. So, Ribby, you're an Alabama boy, right? Well, kinda. I mean,
Yeah.
you were telling me your story there, and you claimed you were from the state of Alabama, but it sounds like maybe you had a little time here.
So I'm originally from New Orleans, but after Hurricane Katrina, moved to Alabama. Spent about 7 years in Alabama before coming out to California.
So Remy was giving me a little bit of a hard time about my football team of choice in the pre-show we were going through. Yeah, it's just like any Alabama fan. He just moves into the state, has no ties to the actual University of Alabama whatsoever, and then just takes up with that football team because they win national championships. And then he wants to give people like myself that have actually earned our affiliation a hard time, right? Is that an accurate depiction of what happened?
Little bit. Yes, yeah.
It's all good. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have to make my mom proud. She's a proud Alabama alumni, along with the rest of almost all of my family. So I always have to get the little rib in there.
Well, at least if your family are alumni, you have something there, right? It's not like most of the Alabama fans in this state. If you got an Auburn shirt, you probably went to Auburn. If you have an Alabama shirt, you probably went to Walmart. That's pretty much what they say around here, right? Because the general fans that don't. Yeah, I didn't make that one up. But we'll get back on topic here. We want to talk about site performance. We are live streaming all over the place today. We are on YouTube. That's where most of the conversation is going to happen. So if you're watching this on one of the other platforms, you might want to make your way over to YouTube. But we are live. We should be live. I haven't checked them all, but we should be live as well on Facebook, on Twitch, and on Twitter Periscope as well. So regardless of where you're watching, welcome. But like I said, conversations over on YouTube. While you're here, you might as well give us a thumbs up on this video. That always helps. And if you're not a subscriber already, well, then just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Tap that notification bell as well. We're here live just about every Friday. And this is going to be an interesting month we've got coming up. We've got Mage Titans and Meet Magento New York, and I'll fill you in on those live stream schedules as we get a little closer to it. So, Remy, if you would, and you kind of went over this a little bit in the intro, could you maybe give some facts, some information as to why focusing on performance of your e-commerce website is important?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I mean, basically speed equals conversions. And so, when you're trying to get, better purchasing, more people to buy from you, I mean, you obviously want to have a website that's as quick as possible. And what I think, a lot of people, when they think about adding, oh, how do I speed up my e-commerce website? A lot of times they think about, things like images, maybe loading the scripts, the JavaScript to, run the pretty animations on the front end, or, make it interactive. How can they load static assets like that as quickly as possible? But there's so much more, right? When it comes to optimizations that you can do, focusing on things like dynamic content as well. So like your shopping cart page, not just the pretty images, but, the actual loading of that page. A lot of things along those lines are really rather important, right? So, and I mean, I'm sure we could talk for hours on, things like DNS and, how to test on mobile, right? Not just to make sure that your site's fast on desktop, because, I mean, to be honest, I'm not actually sure the last time I think maybe a couple of weeks ago I purchased something on desktop, but, mobile experience is pretty key as well. So that's there's just all kinds of.
And Google is definitely starting to reward a fast mobile experience a lot more. So that's becoming, even though historically a lot of people didn't necessarily purchase on mobile, they still browsed the site. That affected their purchase decisions when they got to their desktop. But that's becoming less and less the case. I mean, I know 20, 21-year-old kids that are in college, that are college students, that have never owned a laptop. They don't know how to type. They've done everything their entire life from their phone or a tablet. So it's, that's where mobile is going. Like, everything is going to be, it's not going to be mobile first. It's just going to be mobile. And you may have some mobile device you plug into a keyboard and a monitor and make it a desktop-like device. But, as fast as these phones are getting nowadays, you don't really need a laptop for 99% of what you're doing, unless you're trying to live stream, and apparently you need really, really expensive computer equipment to do that. So, so let's talk about, a lot of people, they think about, especially Magento. I mean, this is a Magento audience, and I think this is definitely a Magento topic. So a lot of people think, my site's slow on Magento, how do I improve it? And they instantly think code. And obviously, that's part of it. You want to have efficient code. You want to have full page cache on. There's a lot of things code side that you need to make sure are proper and efficient to have a fast site. But let's go a little more detailed. Like Cloudflare Cloudflare takes it a little further than that, right? I mean, it's not just about the code and the cache. I mean, you guys kind of handle the whole network layer to improve efficiency. Absolutely. So let's dive into that a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, performance, is really just it's a spectrum, right? So, you were talking about code and, code optimizations and things like that. And that's kind of on the, a lot more labor intensive, maybe, and resource intensive spectrum of kind of making your site faster. But there's, between your actual, Magento website, the application server that it's running on, and the end user's device, right? There's so much. I mean, the entire network layer is, it's a huge part of what actually makes things fast or slow when somebody's loading your website. And, Cloudflare, we act as a reverse proxy in front of your website. And so what we can do with that, right, is we can help you make both the kind of the dynamic content experience, like I was talking about when it comes to shopping carts, as well as the static content experience, so images and scripts and things like that. We can make both of those faster. So when it comes to actually the static content, right? So we have 153 now, I believe. We're adding one pretty much every other week, maybe, you know, right? It's like you look at the blog and, you know, it's basically it's like, oh, we added a new city, you know, and not just in all kinds of parts of the world, but, you know, here in the US, you know, literally everywhere, actually. So, so that's one thing, right? And so the more locations that we can basically bring the Cloudflare network to, those are you know, we can have more locations for, you know, to serve your static content, right? We're closer to your users, you know, makes things faster. And then another big thing that we did, which is, you know, static content is great, right? We all, you know, want to load the images quickly. But when it comes to actually delivering things like the shopping cart page, right, which is a dynamic page, you can't really, you know, I can't cache so much your shopping cart page, somebody else's shopping cart page. It doesn't really work that way. You know, we realized you know, there's a lot of latency in the network, and I don't think a lot of people really truly think about how the internet works, right? And so when you're trying to go from your application server, say it's in Northern Virginia, to you know, somebody in Seattle, right, or maybe they're in the United Kingdom, or, you know, wherever they happen to be, the actual packets that make up the shopping cart page, right, they have to hop along many paths to get from you know, your server to their browser. And at Cloudflare, we realized that, you know, hey, that's a problem. The internet doesn't always work the way we think it does. And, you know, just like a highway, it can get congested, lanes can be closed, you know, things can happen. And we were like, hey, you know, we actually wanted to help people move, you know, get those basically packets from point A to point B faster. And so we built what we call Argo Smart Routing. And what it does is it actually pings from every Cloudflare POP to every other Cloudflare POP to determine what's the fastest way to get between these POPs. And so when, you know, the shopping cart page actually makes it to Cloudflare, it then gets intelligently routed basically from our POP to our POP before, you know, let's say from, you know, one in Virginia to one in the United Kingdom, before it actually ends up making it out and then making it to your users. So that way you can avoid all of these, you know, connection errors that might come with, you know, hey, somebody was getting DDoS attacked, you know, across a particular pipe going, you know, over the ocean. There was tons of traffic, you know, all kinds of things can happen, and, you know, things can get lost or slowed down. And so we make sure that, you know, you don't get lost, the packets don't get lost, and they can make it as quickly as possible to the other location. And that's, you know, so we focus on you know, both the dynamic content and the static content when it comes to things like that. So, and those are really easy things to do, right? When we talk about like code optimizations, right? That might take you, you know, you might need to hire somebody, you know, take a couple of months. With Argo, the smart routing that I talked about, it's, you know, basically you click a button in the Cloudflare dashboard, it turns on, and we, you know, on average, we reduce network latency by about 35%. And that's all you had to do, right? And so you got this nice, easy benefit. And, you know, you didn't have to hire anybody. You didn't have to worry about, you know, code changes or anything like that. You know, and that's in addition to, like, Cloudflare is, for those of you who don't know, it's, we pride ourselves on being extremely easy to set up. So in pretty much about 5 minutes, a simple DNS change, you can go from being not on Cloudflare to on Cloudflare with DDoS protection and caching enabled for all of your static assets. So it makes it pretty easy, right? We're focusing on helping you get those easy wins with our massive network.
Yeah, and just we've got a little bit of an audio problem there. There's some sort of popping on. I don't know if it's the table you're on, or there's a little.
Might be.
Little popping there. You got to lay back. You got to relax a little bit, man. Don't be pushing on that table so hard.
I won't. Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure we get crystal clear audio as best we can for the viewers here. Now this is going to degrade down into a conversation. We've got certain topics we're going to talk about. If you want to go into depth on any of these, then please post in the chat if you're watching this live. If you're not watching this live, then comment on the video and I'll do what I can to get an answer for any technical questions you may have. But as far as getting set up and going, and that's literally it, is I have to, no change host, no tweaks to my hosting. I have to just update my DNS and route it through your system. Is that how that works?
That's it. That's all it takes. And so I actually mentioned earlier, a big point of like a way you can get a nice speed boost is a lot of people don't think about DNS, right? So DNS, is the phone book of the internet, right? So when I type in, www.yoursite.com, that needs to be translated somewhere to the actual address of the server that you're looking for. So what happens is you change over to our authoritative DNS, and we become that phone book for you, right? We're the authoritative phone book, and we are actually the fastest authoritative DNS globally when it comes to for speed, right? So it's somewhere in the range of about 10 milliseconds for a response time, and so you can get speed boosts. You can get a speed boost just by using us, just by turning us on, essentially, like that, right? You can even not configure caching or anything. And that's it. And it just takes 5 minutes, and everything starts proxying through us. And that's how we're able to do all of these, fun things that, really make it easy.
Yeah, and we've got a question here in the chat. Let's see if it's working. And this kind of ties to exactly where I was going to go with this conversation. Karthik, thank you for your question. Thanks for watching. And I don't know if you've got any specific test exactly like this. Maybe you have something right offhand you can reference, or we can talk in more general terms, and then we'll get a more specific answer for Karthik. But his question is, do you have some speed test benchmarks for Magento 2 using Cloudflare specifically in the Middle East, like Dubai and UAE?
So I don't have any specific benchmarks for Magento 2 in the Middle East. I'm sorry about that. I don't have any stats I can pull out real quick. But I will say with Cloudflare, right, is when it comes to like serving those static assets and serving, and helping with the dynamic content as well, we have, like I said, it's 153 locations right now, and we're focused on making a global cloud network, right? So it's I know we're both here in the U.S., but at Cloudflare, we're really focused on making the internet better and helping make it better everywhere around the world. So I can say that I don't know the number of locations we have in the Middle East off the top of my head right now. But if you go to cloudflare.com/network, I'm sure you will see them all. And we can get some, I guess, more specific numbers to you. Hopefully, I might be able to find some. We might have already run some of those. Be able to find some and get them to you later.
Yeah, if you would, Karthik, if you would just send me an email, I'll post my email in the chat here. If you would just send me an email, I will forward that and we will get you an answer, maybe some specific case study. But let's talk in more general terms. First of all, if I'm on Magento 1 or 2, whatever, I update my DNS. Does that simple change give me access to every service you have, or is there more involved in maybe rolling out some of the other services, and maybe that's just part of the package, or is that's it? I'm ready to start using everything you offer.
So I do want to start with the fact that every service that Cloudflare has, right, we offer at all of the locations that we have. So there's no like specific special premium network or anything like that. It's just as soon as you make that simple DNS change, you can go ahead. You can control caching, right? However you want to cache things. You get DDoS protection. We do have kind of as you go up plans, right? So we have a free plan, which is just a simple caching and DDoS protection. As you go up to the pro plan, we have the WAF. So that actually has Magento specific rule set for you. And then as you start making it to the, like the business plan and the enterprise plan, what we do is, we offer some, like, basically it's a little bit more customizations that you can do, on your own end, and better support, of course, from Cloudflare. And what it is we do also have, so like Argo that I was talking about, smart routing, it provides, it is an add-on product, so you do have to go into the dashboard, enable that. It's $5 to start, to kind of start using it, and then 10 cents per gigabyte delivered. So we have a couple of products like that both on the performance and the security side, but there's no extra like you don't have to do some extra configurations on your end or anything like that. It's really just, especially for Argo, it's you just hit the enable Argo button. It's that easy. So
Right. And I need some sort of, I'm gonna have to create some sort of visual effect where like a siren goes off when someone just throws out a random acronym. We try to keep this as non-technical as we can, unless the audience requests technical questions. We're always going to try to answer your questions, no matter how technical. But we try to make this content consumable for people, regardless of their level of technical ability. And I know even in hosting that we've had a lot of hosting folks on, and they'll throw out acronyms that are like, the heck are we talking about? Even I'm not sure. You're talking about the firewall, but if you would define a WAF or WAF, just to make sure those watching understand what we're doing.
Yeah, we get you work doing this all day, and sometimes those acronyms slip out, right?
That's, no, I get you. It's not a problem.
No, yeah, of course. A WAF, so WAF, Web Application Firewall, is what that stands for. And what a Web Application Firewall is we provide, at least in the case of Magento, we actually provide specific rule sets. So like Cloudflare, we've created specific rules for protecting against known Magento vulnerabilities. So, if you haven't gotten a chance to update, your Magento instance, you should always have updates, but sometimes it's, you need to do tests or things like that to make sure, everything's working still. You can actually enable those, Web Application Firewall rules, and you'll be protected. And so in terms of protecting against application vulnerabilities, which is, what the WAF is for. So we have three kind of separate rule sets. So we have what's called OWASP. And so that is a rather long acronym, but what it really means is OWASP rules are sort of the industry standard rules for, you should protect against these vulnerabilities in all applications. They're just, very basic things, right? That sometimes, things get misconfigured, or, you've written some custom code and maybe you didn't realize that was a thing. And so the OWASP rules are there to help protect against those. And so we have the OWASP rules. We have Cloudflare special rules, which are in a way like the Magento rules that I was talking about, where it's, these are things that we've created in response to, security events, security notices, and things like that. So we've done that. And then we also we have some custom rules that we create for some of our, business and enterprise customers that are, it's very specific to their implementation or, whatever they might have. And they need some very specific rule. And so we have those three rule sets, and you can turn on, OWASP really easily. You can turn on, like the Magento specific rules. It's just click a dashboard and you can set them to default, or, you can actually choose how you would like them to be. If you want to not have one enabled, just, maybe it's causing something with your particular installation, you can do that. And so we have those rules. And what it is we see about 10 to 20% of the rules actually come from the OWASP, the industry standard rules, like the actual rule events, right? So somebody's trying to probe your application and maybe exfiltrate data, or kind of find a way in, backdoor in. So we see about 10, 20% of the rules, the events come from those. About 70 to 80% come from the Cloudflare special rules, so like the ones we create for Magento and and other CMSs and platforms like that, or the ones that we just happen to know are a big deal at the moment. And then the rest come from sort of the little special Cloudflare rules that not the Cloudflare specials, but the custom rules that we write for other companies. So Web Application Firewall in a nutshell is really just about protecting you, from new vulnerabilities that might have been discovered that you might not even be aware of, right? And making sure that people not spam comments, or find a way into your dashboard, or do things like that.
And so I wanted to touch on Karthik's question, and now that we've kind of finished that thread of what it takes to get it set up and going, not necessarily specific to the Middle East, but what performance gains are you seeing? Is there some sort of average you're seeing, or some sort of example you have of what kind of gains merchants will see versus their stock Magento installation?
Yeah, so I mean, this is dependent on a number of factors. Kind of the biggest one being, if you have your Magento installation, and let's say it's right there sitting on your desk, right? You've decided to install it on a little server next to your desk, and all of your all of your users are in the same city or in the same office, that kind of thing. Obviously, we can't help so much there. It's a little bit contrived, but if let's say you're in a particular city. We can help a little bit, right? We can help with optimizations and things like that. But where you really start to see gains, and like I talked about, Argo is on average, we see about 35% like network latency, or basically speed improvements. And with when it comes to network latency, is kind of the farther you get away, right? So you have your servers here, and you have customers all over the country or all over the world. They're going to start to see bigger and bigger performance gains as you get farther and farther away. So it's not specific to, it can be very specific to to your instance. I can promise you though, there's pretty much no case in which I would love if something that happened, right? It's like, tell me, I'm sure we would love to find out and fix it, where you actually turn on Cloudflare and things don't get any better, right? There's no improvement at all from your standard Magento installation. Just because delivering static assets from closer to users is always more is always going to be beneficial. The same as smart routing between different cities as we are different Cloudflare POPs as we make it to your user. So I don't have it's like I said, it's very installation dependent.
We have another question here in the chat, and I apologize. I'm from the South. We barely speak English here most of the time. I'm apologizing that I can't pronounce your name. But the question here is, what are the security monitoring tools available in general? Are you using any SPL security methods for Magento 2?
So security monitoring tools that we have available are, so when it comes to when it comes to SPL, the specific for Magento, I'm not entirely sure. But when it comes to the, like, let's say the web application firewall, you can, when you turn on the rules for the web application firewall, we have an analytics dashboard that will show you, when the rules were triggered, how many times they were triggered, things like that. And you can also basically set the rules to different levels. So you could be block where if somebody triggers the rule, you're no, and then we log that in the back end, and you can see it in the dashboard. Or if you're an enterprise customer using our enterprise log share, you can get a basically a near real time feed of events as they happen. So that can happen. You can put it into simulate mode. So let's say you're like, hey, we want to turn this on, but I want to make sure that it's not going to affect our customers. Healthy dose of skepticism, right? Just always wanting to, you should always test things before you, kind of put them out there. And so you can turn it on simulate mode, and that will actually, it won't block anything, but it will send the same logging. It will do the same logging as you would get with blocking, so you can see that and make sure that nobody's getting blocked that shouldn't be. And then we also have another rule mode called challenge. And so that is, let's say you have a rule, right? You've determined from these specific rule sets that you have a rule that is particularly, maybe sometimes it triggers, right? Because you're looking for some kind of specific, data, like there's some user input, right? That maybe trips up a rule. You can actually have it where the simulate mode will actually just present a challenge. Not the simulate, sorry. The challenge mode will actually just present a challenge, like a JavaScript challenge. That's sort of, it's like a, hey, wait a minute, we're going to make sure you're a real, like you're in a real browser. And then after a few seconds, they get to make it through if they're valid. And if not, we block them as is. So you can see all of that in the dashboard. If you're an enterprise customer, you can, we provide all of the logging for you to get all of that information out, right, and see it in near real time. And so, we're really, and you can dump that into, a dashboard of your choice or some analytics tool of your choice to see, if you want to do more digging, or like we said, most people just usually use the dashboard when it comes to checking those sorts of things.
Yeah, thank you for your question. If there are any more questions, please continue to post them in the chat. We can pull questions from Twitter. We can pull them from Facebook, or the active chat is always on YouTube. I apologize if you're watching on Twitch. I cannot pull the Twitch's API doesn't allow us to pull it in at this point. So if you have a question, be sure to let us know. We're here for you, and you can guide this conversation, and we can just talk about what you want to talk about. Or, I mean, you guys always ask the best questions. This is going to be boring if you don't ask questions. I'm just going to ramble. Yeah, we're here for the questions. That's what we're here for. We're not here for me. We're here for you. But while you're here, if you would, hit a thumbs up on the video. If you're not subscribed to the page, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to see if we can't get this channel up to 1,000. YouTube gives us a little more trust once we hit that 1,000 threshold. So hopefully we can help reach a broader audience and get even more people on here to share their knowledge and expertise on topics that interest you, the e-commerce community, or in most cases the Magento community in particular. So I've got a list of notes here of things we were going to talk about, Remy, and we're about halfway through the hour. So get your questions in, and we'll go down that route. Otherwise, we're going to fill it in with these notes. You specifically mentioned a Magento plugin. If all I have to do is update my DNS and everything works, like what does the plugin do? What functionality does that uncover?
Yeah, so we offer plugins into a number of different services, including Magento. And what it really is for is it's to help, your management of Cloudflare without necessarily having to go to our dashboard to do certain actions, to perform certain actions if you want to purge things or, set some settings slightly differently. So that way you just don't have to log in twice. And it makes it much, the user experience a lot more seamless. We just want to make it as easy.
As a Magento agency, as a Magento developer, I'm going to recommend that you just don't install that plugin and get over your laziness and just log into that system. A good Magento install is a clean Magento install. Okay, remember this. But if you need to, it's there for you. Is that? I mean, so it's not providing anything new. It's just a way for under one login for them to control.
We just want to make it easier.
The panel. Yeah, no, it's understandable. That's great. I would definitely recommend to my merchants just logging in to Cloudflare to manage that if possible. Let's
Absolutely.
see.
I was going to say you're always going to get the full experience, right? You log into the Cloudflare dashboard. There's we can always provide. You get control of everything, right? That we might not be able to always provide when it comes to a particular plugin.
And before we get to the next segment, about halfway through the show, I've got a segment we've been doing over the last few live streams, and I want to kind of talk about this. And this is usually off topic, and this is a new segment we've created called "What You Bitching About" on Twitter, sponsored by MageMail. Thank you, MageMail, for sponsoring. And MageMail is the only email marketing solution out there designed from the ground up to help you get more from your Magento store. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you get more. And this week, I thought it was going to be quiet. Like, there wasn't a whole lot on Twitter going on. And then today, they announced that Facebook has been hacked. And my Twitter feed has just exploded from Facebook being hacked again. And that's a little bit applicable to today's live stream in that, it is about performance, but it's also about security of your platform. And so, Remy, I guess, I don't know how we tie this into the topic for today, but I want to get your opinion. Can Facebook do anything right at this point? Like, if you have Facebook stock, should you just be selling that stuff off left and right?
I don't know that I can provide any financial advice, but I actually was one of the I was one of the people who was forced to. I think they've had to force about 90 million accounts to log out of their Facebook account and re-log back in. And I didn't realize that this morning. I was wondering why. I was like, I've never been logged out on my phone before. And had to log back in, looked on Twitter, and sure enough, I was one of those. So that's yeah, it's always interesting. I have to say I've been using Instagram a lot more. I know it's still Facebook, but than traditional Facebook, I guess, recently.
Yeah, I spend a little bit of time on the marketplace looking for ways to get rid of my money for some reason or another. I got this car habit, so I'm always looking at cars. That's pretty much the only thing I do on Facebook. I'm not even really a big fan of Instagram. I like it better, but to say I like it is still, social media is just one of those things I'm not a huge fan of. I do it because I have to, which is funny. I know, from somebody on YouTube trying to create a YouTube channel live streaming. I don't really feel like this is social media so much as content generation, but I just don't feel the urge. Like yesterday, I was in Atlanta and I was sitting at a Starbucks waiting on a meeting, and I'm like, this would probably be a good photo op. There's like big buildings behind me. There's a coffee cup sitting there. I'm there with these headphones and my laptop. I'm like, this would make a great photo for Instagram. So I get my phone out and I'm trying to frame it and I'm trying to take pictures, and people are looking at me funny, and I'm like, I'd really need somebody else to follow me around to take the good photo, because it's hard to take a good photo of yourself and not make it look like a selfie. And then I just gave up and quit. That's usually my social media experience. I try to create content for it, then I just quit.
Yeah, you get one of those little drones that follows you around and takes photos. Definitely won't attract any attention. Yeah.
Nobody will notice the little, that's a good idea. I've been like, what's the purpose in the little drone? But yeah, I could have just floated it out there and got a picture. But I'm real particular about my photographs, and like even phones, it's hard to get a real good photograph of yourself with a phone. I can usually take pretty good photos of someone else, but so that's what you're bitching about on Twitter this week. Facebook sucks. I agree. You probably should quit. We are not financial advisors. If I had stock, I would sell it, but you do you. I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not going to say anything that's going to get any sort of investigation from the SEC or anything like that. I do not own Facebook stock. So we'll get back on topic here. So we've got, and like I said, I'm just going through the notes here. If you have any questions in particular, post those in the chat. You had mentioned Magento-specific firewall rules. And I know we talked about the WAF in general. You want to go into more detail as to maybe some of the things you're doing with it for Magento in particular?
Yeah. So when it comes to, like I said, we actually provide, firewall rules for a bunch of different, CMSs, e-commerce, kind of e-commerce stores. And really the goal is always, right, since we protect, I guess at this point, it's 10 million, we protect 10 million domains, or on Cloudflare. And so, we get notified of things, pretty much instantly, right, when when they happen, right, when there's some kind of security incident or things like that. And the goal with the Magento firewall rules is, and you can go look in them yourself. There's tons of them. They're a little bit cryptic sometimes, but you can go look at them. And the goal is, it's really just to make sure you're protected, right? We want to make sure you didn't get a chance to update last night, right? Or 2 nights ago when some critical vulnerability came out. If you have the default rules set on, as soon as we update, as soon as we add in the rule, you're protected. And you don't have to, you can sleep better at night knowing that something might not happen, right, while you're asleep or, whatever, and that you'll be protected, and not have to constantly browse, Magento security forum to make sure that you're there, right? It's not that Magento is insecure, but, things happen all the time. And so that's what we're really there to help protect against, right?
Absolutely. Going through the notes here, let's talk about CDN and cache a little more. I mean, you mentioned that, and I guess let's define it. CDN is an acronym, so let's define CDN and talk about those services a little more and why they're important.
Yeah, so CDN is it's a content delivery network, and what that means is we built out our Cloudflare network of 153 at the moment locations, right? And what we do with each of those locations is um, we can actually cache. What it is we cache the static assets from your website. So if somebody they're like, hey, they're going to go to they're in Atlanta and they're going to go to your website, we would they would hit Cloudflare. Cloudflare would be like, oh, hey, we have some other people have been looking from Atlanta. And they've looked at the homepage as well, and so there's all these static assets. And so what would happen is they would just get delivered directly from Cloudflare, so much closer to where the user is actually requesting things from. So you get they might go back and get the HTML page, they get the all of the images, and when you can actually deliver them from much closer, right? Is you don't have to worry about latency as much. You don't have to go to Virginia, or if your site's in one of all of the different cloud regions. Maybe you're on the West Coast, and you can actually deliver things much closer to users, and it makes things much faster.
So is that? I mean, obviously, it's about serving things as close to the user as you possibly can. Making that content closer to them, and then your algorithm, that Argo smart routing, is about finding the most efficient route. If you do have to send that data over a longer route, then they you find the most efficient one to get it to them. And obviously, the finding the smartest route, I'm assuming, is automatic. But as far as the CDN goes, is that one of those things where, and I think you hinted at it in your reply there, is that one of those things where it's not utilized until it's needed? Like the first customer that requests it from Atlanta is going to get it from the main server, and then it's going to be stored at Atlanta in order to serve it to that geography faster. It's not automatically pushed out to everywhere you could possibly store it. It's only done upon that first request from that geography.
Correct.
Is that how it works? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it's what we call a pull model, right? So somebody goes out, requests the content, it gets pulled into the Cloudflare cache at that location, and then everybody else who requests it, they get the benefits, right, of that first person's request, and things are served much faster in that case.
And I'm assuming, most of the time you're going to have a few geographies that are the majority of your requests. Like, I know a lot of people are regional in what they're selling, or they're based on the U.S. So you serve it to maybe all of the United States. When you've got a node, say in Atlanta, how big of a geography does that serve? Is it always you serve it from Atlanta until another node is closer to serve it from? Or is it just, does it get a radius, and if someone falls in the gap, they get it from the main server? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So Cloudflare is we're built using our network is built using what's called Anycast technology, and what that is like I mentioned before, when you're looking up a website, right? So you have to example.com gets translated into an IP address, so something like 1.1.1.1. Which actually happens to be a Cloudflare IP address. It gets translated into an IP address like that. And what Anycast is normally that IP address gets sent to a particular server. So it gets sent to, I know exactly where to find that server. It's in Northern Virginia, or it's in Atlanta, or wherever it happens to be. And so what that is that would be called unicast. So one server has one address. With Anycast, all of the Cloudflare locations have the same IP address. So they use the exact same IP address. And what that means is when you request, you're like, hey, I want to go to that website. It gets one of Cloudflare's IP addresses, and based on it's network topology. So it's what's the fewest hops to get to the nearest Cloudflare IP address. And so, If you're in Atlanta, most likely that's going to be, you'd make the few hops, you'd get over to Atlanta. You might be, over here in, let's say you're in Los Angeles, right, in the surrounding area. What's going to happen is, let's say you're directly in between Los Angeles and San Francisco. With Anycast, it's going to take the fewest hops until it gets to a Cloudflare data center. So if Los Angeles happens to be fewer network hops, so in other words, and just for those who don't know, realize it's not exactly an acronym, but it's not exactly easy to understand. A network hop is when you go connect to a different location. So one hop would be like going from your computer to your router in your home. The next hop would be going from the router to basically the router in your cable provider or your internet provider's data center. They would then make another hop to get to the next city that they might want to go to or that you're requesting, and then it would do the same thing on the other side as it gets to a Cloudflare server. And so it chooses the path with the fewest network hops. And so that's how Anycast works, and that's how we're able to always route you to the closest Cloudflare data center when it comes to that.
Let's talk about rate limiting. You want to. A lot of web traffic are going to be scrapers, crawlers. I try to say a word with an SC and a C. Forgive me. Scrapers and crawlers. And oftentimes you want to be able to limit those. You don't want to limit the ones that you want, like Google. You obviously don't want to block that unless for some reason or another you don't want traffic. But what do you offer as far as limiting the traffic from those types of devices?
Yeah. So we have two different things when it comes to limiting the traffic from, maybe some kind of crawler or scraper. And what happens is the first set is actually built into our WAF. So we have specific WAF rules for things like fake Googlebot, and you're pretending it's the Google crawler is, you have somebody pretending to be the Google crawler. Where like we see the Google crawler all the time. You're not the Google crawler. No, you're not allowed, right? You're not allowed to do this. And so that's kind of the first one, right? It's kind of those basic, like, hey, you're trying to pretend to be somebody. We definitely know you're not. And the second is, like you mentioned, is rate limiting. And so you can actually apply rate limiting rules. So what it does is it basically it just limits the number of requests that can happen through any given Cloudflare data center to a particular path on your website. So let's say you have a way to log, you're going to have a way to log in on your, on your website. You might want to say that you might want to do something where it's like, hey, if I see this IP address trying to log in and failing and doing that, 10 times in a minute, probably, it might be somebody who forgot their password, but it might be somebody who's trying to guess somebody else's password, or things like that. And so we can actually apply things like that on, if you want to apply that to your login form, you can go in the dashboard and, you basically just select that path, and then you say, when it gets a forbidden error, I want to, stop, I only want to allow this many. So you can do stuff for things like, basically somebody trying to brute force a login, or you can put it on your whole site in some ways where, a lot of times people like it where if you get too many 404s, so 404 is the page not found, right? It's the page doesn't exist. And a lot of scrapers are known to, it's like they might just be blindly checking links on your website, right? They're like, I'm looking for, I'm trying to find something, but I'm going about it in a really, not efficient way. And so you can apply a rate limiting rule to your whole website if you wanted to, where it's, I'm only going to allow this many, right? Because a regular user might get one in a minute, and they might be like, oh, that wasn't, I obviously typed it in wrong, and then they go and, find the right one, where, a bot doesn't know it all, and it's just going to kind of keep on going through. And so we offer, tools to help you limit traffic like that and kind of help keep the load off of your server, off of your Magento server.
So what is Cloudflare Access? That's one of the services you provide. Let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah. So Cloudflare Access, what it is it's to help you protect kind of internal parts of your website. So let's say the login page for, you want to go to, you have a specific login page for for your dashboard, right? For your internal analytics, or, you want to see, orders and things like that. You can tell Cloudflare Access, you can sign up, and you tell Cloudflare Access, I want to protect this path on my website because this is, very sensitive. This is an internal only sort of thing. And what you can do is then with Cloudflare Access, you can then take, Google, Okta, Active Directory, you could even do Facebook if you really wanted to, or GitHub. And you can you can say, I want to authenticate with Google. And then I only want to allow, this Google address, this Gmail address, or this, if you're using G Suite, so Google's, business email, I only want to allow these particular email addresses to log into this, location. And so what happens is when somebody who's not logged in hits that, they actually hit Cloudflare first. So there's no way that they can probe, they can't probe your application, or your Magento instance at that particular path without first authenticating with Cloudflare or authenticating with their provider, whatever provider they happen to choose, and Cloudflare. So they never make it past Cloudflare if they can't authenticate. And so you don't have to worry about things getting probed or, somebody trying to find some kind of weakness or trying out all kinds of passwords, on your Magento instance.
The next thing I wanted to talk about, we've got about 8 minutes left here in the hour. Again, if you have any questions, post them. We try to live stream for an hour, but we will go over if you continue to ask questions that we can answer. The next thing I wanted to talk about, we wanted to end on the lava lamp wall, which is being stolen by Hollywood here a little bit, and I posted the link in the chat on YouTube. If you're watching on any other service, get over to YouTube. That's where all the action is going on. So what is this lava lamp wall, and why is it going to be used on NCIS?
Yeah, so our lava lamp wall, so if you come to the Cloudflare offices here in San Francisco, the second you walk into the office, you look to the left, and you'll see this huge lava lamp wall that is just, I don't know the exact number, but it takes up the entire wall with just lava lamps. And so what we do with that is we actually record that, and we use it as a source of randomness when it comes to generating, basically when it comes to doing encryption. And so encryption on the internet, or encryption anywhere, it relies on having a good source of randomness. And so computers, if you're not aware, are not super great at generating anything random. It might seem like they are sometimes, but when it comes to cryptography and security, they're not so great when it comes to randomness. And they can generally use things like your mouse input or like the temperature of the computer, and get an extremely high degree of precision. So like 75.3276 degrees, is what your laptop is currently, is what it currently is. And so they take things like that, amalgamate them, put them through an algorithm, and come out with a ton of basically randomness. And they use that when generating keys on the internet. So and a key is something that secures my communication with yours. So if you look up on the URL bar on your website, on your browser right now, you'll see HTTPS. That relies on the key. That relies on a key or a pair of keys. And so what it is you need that randomness to generate that sort of thing. And the lava lamp wall is actually, we call it lava rand, and it is one of the inputs that we use into kind of our randomness generator for us to generate, basically strong random strings and, strings of things. And so it's a fun way of doing that, and it's also effective. It's one of many sources that we use along with the traditional way to just help make things more secure than they otherwise would be. Because we're very much focused on security and performance. So we do fun things like that as well. It makes great art in the lobby, that's for sure, and great fodder for NCIS to use on their show. So actually, if you go to if you're curious, you can go to it's believe it is glowbeamtechnologies.com. It is the name of the fake company in the NCIS episode that aired this week. If you go to glowbeamtechnologies.com, it'll take you to a blog post on our blog that goes into a little bit more detail on how we do that. So if you're curious about learning more.
It was at least clever enough to warrant a Hollywood show, right? I mean, they're going to copy it because it was clever enough. Because usually you just think they make this crap up, and then you're like, no, that's actually something someone else is using. We've got Mage Mail in the house. Mage Mail, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a sponsor of What You Bitching About on Twitter. I don't know if you're just joining. You missed that segment. Facebook got hacked again. Maybe, just maybe, no promises, no guarantees. If they were using Cloudflare, they wouldn't have got hacked. Maybe, right? So they're not a customer of yours, are they?
Not that I am aware.
Okay, so if they were using, now we can double down on it, right? So thanks for watching this week. Again, we're going to live stream next week. If you've got a topic you want to talk about, let me know. We've got Meet Magento New York and Mage Titans in Austin, Texas. Both of them are still at the early bird pricing. That's kind of well, at least I know Meet Magento New York's at early bird pricing. Mage Titans may have passed, but tickets only get more expensive the closer you get to the event. So please, if you're considering going, I'm going to be on stage at both of these. I'm going to be hosting a PWA, Progressive Web App panel at Mage Titans in Austin, Texas. Let me get you a date on that and make sure I don't tell you the wrong date, but that is October 26th, 2018 in Austin, Texas, and then Meet Magento, New York City. Again, those early bird prices are coming to an end. If you want to see me give a presentation on what you're not doing on your website that's costing you money, join me there. Go ahead and pick up your tickets at meetmagento.nyc or magetitans.us. We're going to try to live stream while I'm at both of those. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to get some streams. We're going to have some folks on. It'll be a little different in that I'm not going to be here in the studio, and I'm going to have to carry all this equipment all across the country. The one up in New York is the most difficult because I'm flying and I can't carry all of this stuff. So, but anyway, get a ticket, join me live, then you won't have to worry about the live stream. You can just hang out with me. We can have a few beers. We can have a good time. Thanks for watching, Remy. Any parting words there? If somebody's interested in learning more about Cloudflare, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so just head over to cloudflare.com. You can try us out on our free plan. If you're curious, and if you want some of the firewall features that we talked about or the smart routing, those go up. You can start with our pro plan and start just adding add-ons. But to get started and try it out is totally free. Help speed up your website, make it more secure. And yeah, it was great being here. Thank you for having me on. And progressive web apps are really exciting, so I'm sure that's going to be a great talk.
Yeah, I'm really bullish on PWAs right now. We're loving progressive web apps. We're having a lot of great conversations with merchants about them. There's a lot of great conversations in the Magento community. Magento 2.3 is in beta, should be out in production in the next month or so. That's going to have a lot of the tools we need, and I'm expecting progressive web app adoption to have a sharp rise when those tools are available, and over the course of the next year or two to continue to go up. So we're really excited about it. We think it's going to be a big deal for merchants. How does that? I mean, we're winding down here, but one I want to talk on that as far as from your perspective, like how I'm assuming that's going to lessen server load and things like that. Or are you seeing or expecting any differences from your side when it comes to progressive web apps?
No, in the sense that, we're still delivering static content when you make API calls, right? If you're going to end up making APIs calls back to your origin server, you can still use things like Argo Smart Routing to accelerate those. We actually have a product, and if you're interested, it's called Cloudflare Workers, and it lets you write JavaScript that runs on Cloudflare's network. So actually at all those 153 locations that I talked about, you can actually write JavaScript to respond to API calls, do authentication, authorization, right out on our network, much, much closer to the user. And we think that's going to be really exciting to use in conjunction with progressive web apps to make the web experience, the mobile web experience, so much better. So for any developers out there, I really recommend you checking out Cloudflare Workers if you're curious on writing JavaScript that runs on Cloudflare. So writing serverless JavaScript.
We definitely, yeah. I need to look into that. We'll have to talk about that a little more. Again, it looks like we are all out of questions, so we are going to call it a day. Thanks for watching. Hit a thumbs up on the video if you would, please. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel already. And I look forward to seeing you next week, next Friday, same time.